Hello, Alessandra. Thank you for joining me today for recording another video in our series of, let's call it podcast for our cost action. The occasion is based on your research on the VMG that you are currently working on. And basically, we're going to try to give a glimpse into your work, your research to the wider public. So I would start with the general question. So basically, what's the grant about? What's your research about? So just try to give us an overview so we understand more.
Sure. Thank you, Basile. Hi, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to share my piece of research. I have to say this research was born within the diversity team in our cost action, and especially Claudia Tarantola and Maria Iannario helped me throughout the design of the research. So it is a joint effort. The research wants to investigate a very topical issue that is the gender gap in the fintech environment. So we built a two-step research. The first step is a survey. And through this survey, we want to investigate what is the level of knowledge of fintech products and services and of the related technologies such as AI, machine learning, neural networks among the European households. And by doing this, we also want to test and see whether there are differences in this level of knowledge between males and females. Another thing we want to check is not only if this difference are due to the gender, but if these differences are due to the STEM or mathematical or scientific aptitude, because we know that generally female have been culturally driven towards humanities and not STEM. And so this yields lower confidence with mathematical tools. The second step is that we expect to find this gap. We expect to find that female have less knowledge and less aptitude towards these new technologies. We want to see whether this gap can be reduced by an increased level of transparency. So we will call on policy implication to see whether providing the right and correct amount of information to households helps them to take more consciously and more correct financial decisions.
Thank you, Alessandra, for making clear or giving us these details about your research, the overview. And I would go then based on a previous video recorded with another colleague that fintech is trying to democratize, to make everything democratic, so to help minorities or underserved, underprivileged groups. And based on this idea, I would go back to the gender gap. So what is it so high, or why should we be worried about this gender gap in finance, basically?
Well, I have to say that gender gap is still one of the most concerning topics for policymakers, because you know, we don't have to think only to Europe, but there are several cultural aspects in different countries. And for some of these countries, female are still dependent on their partner or on the family to take their daily expenses. So the gender gap in finance means that there is a difference, a significant difference in the amount, in the access to financial services for females. And by increasing the financial inclusion of female, we have the opportunity to give the chance to these female to become independent, maybe build their own business, why not? And if the business grows, then they can hire new people, and this brings a lot of advantages that in the end go in the direction of a more inclusive and sustainable economic growth. So essentially, the gender gap nowadays translates into uneven possibility for male and female to access financing for their business opportunities, or to access, for instance, insurance products to protect their wealth. And if a female is dependent on a partner or is not financially included, it means that when a shock occurs, like she gets ill or something gets broken like the car, she has to give up on some basic expenses like a medical visit. And this, of course, affects the welfare of the female and overall the welfare of the country.
Yes, indeed, you are right. And therefore, you believe, or your team together with your colleagues, that fintech might be a solution for reducing this gap. And if you can give us some specific examples or some directions that you are following in your research, would be excellent.
Okay, well, fintech brings with it the promise of more accessible, timely, and convenient products and services in the financial intermediation area. Because of the lean structure of fintech companies, because of the advances in the technological content of the financial offer products served by fintech companies, the overall price of financial intermediation is decreasing. This, for instance, to give you an example, means that if I am an immigrant and I have to send money to my relatives at home, to my children in another country, before fintech, I had to use the traditional channels, which were very expensive. While nowadays I have other options, like in the time you had the opportunity to send money via the short messaging services, which is now a bit outdated, but you still have the opportunity to send through a smartphone on this mobile app that allow to transfer money, let's say, instantaneously and with a very, very small amount of fees, even zero in some cases. This means that if you have to transfer 100 euros, for instance, all of these 100 euros or 99 end up to your family. So you're kind of optimizing the transfer to your family, which means that they can spend more, they have more resources. Additionally, fintech actually proved to be a tool to be more inclusive, to increase financial inclusion. One of the most cited example is China, because China is such a huge country and banks were not all around. So people had to walk or to travel for miles, for many miles, kilometers to get to a bank. And through the spread of peer-to-peer platforms or payment app, even entrepreneurs or people that were in the rural area had the opportunity to finance their own business. Of course, fintech has within some risk that must be taken into account. And this is another aspect of the gap, because we have to make sure that both female and male, when taking the decision in financial aspects, need to be aware of the risks they're taking. So when choosing the fintech company, they have to make sure that this fintech company is real and is not a scam or something like a fraud.
Thank you for the details and the examples. And now I will go one step further and kindly ask you to give us, if possible, a few details about your preliminary results. Get us a glimpse in your research.
Okay, so we distributed the survey on the knowledge of fintech and technological innovation. We got a relatively low number of responses. That's why I cannot tell you now what is the causal relationship, what is causing the fintech gender gap. But from what we have seen so far, the level of knowledge of fintech products is very low. And additionally, when you ask people if they have used any of the fintech products available, the answer is even lower. So not only the knowledge is low, but the use, of course, is even lower. So even those people that know some fintech products do not use them. And the most used are generally payments, which is probably the easiest because it's connected also to some specific companies providing these services like Amazon or Google that have these embedded apps. And also instant insurances, because they maybe when they purchase a ticket, a flight ticket, they have the opportunity to subscribe to this insurance. They probably don't know, but it is generally an instant insurance that covers for cancellation or when you lose your luggage. On the gender gap, we see that female respondents in general know less about fintech and use fintech less. Despite this, on the STEM or mathematical skills, despite female declare that they prefer words and not numbers, in the end, when you look at the questions we put to see whether they could actually work with fractions or compute probabilities, both female and male gave the correct answers. So the feeling that female have that they're not good at numbers is not proven so far by the test on the little exercises we put into the survey. But of course, we need to collect more responses also to see whether there are some country differences or what are the drivers of these difference.
Thank you very much, Alessandra, for the details. And I'm sure that we managed to get people interested, people that are going to see the video. And I hope to see, I don't hope, I wait to see more of your results and understand more of this gap and also the other things that you are investigating. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll post it online for our colleagues and the broader public to see.
Thank you, Vasile, and thank you, of course, to the Cost Action for making this opportunity real and for giving me the opportunity to be in such a beautiful network.